Let's get into the kind of interesting one from this week.
Yeah.
Which was Legendary cutting ties with Warner Brothers and going over to our favorite flip-floppers at Sony.
Yeah. Way to mess with release dates here.
Jesus Christ. They're gonna start putting stuff on the schedule for like 2027 and moving it the week after.
Yeah.
I love this.
No, I'm not surprised by this move. I mean, Legendary has moved around. They were at Warner's and they went to Universal and then they came back to Warner's. I'm pretty sure. So it's not like they've had some home somewhere for a really long time. So they do move around every few years, and they got burned pretty bad during the pandemic with Warner's under the previous CEO. His whole experimenting with day and dating. So they lost a lot of money on some of their big titles by doing that, and
they were really trying to fight against it.
They were. Well, they were owed a lot of money.
Yeah.
These were big titles that were coming out at the time. So
Godzilla vs. Kong, that was probably cheap.
Yeah.
Dune was probably relatively inexpensive.
It only took what, $250 million each.
That sandworm scene cost $50 million on its own.
So I'm not surprised they left, and I'm glad that they, I'm sure, went with somebody that was theatrical only, that would give them proper time to grow and maintain and have back end and stuff. So that I can see why they chose Sony and didn't go back to say like Universal or, go to Paramount or anything, where anything they do would be beholden to a shortened window and a streaming issue.
But
so
Sony's good for 15 to 20 releases a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their Marvel side of everything, which is going to continue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So what's interesting about the deal is that King Kong, that property, and
let her finish, Kyle. Don't help her.
And Dune are not going over to Sony. They're staying with Warner's because I think they were co-financed by Warner's, so they're still staying there.
Mm-hmm.
And Legendary won't have access to anything that Sony currently has in IP for Ghostbusters or for Spider-Man. So this really is new, I would say new franchises, new content moving forward is going to be here.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
Because something could hit,
right?
You just never know.
It could birth a whole new franchise.
Oh,
yeah, which is why Sony made this deal.
This is
obviously
what Legendary does. Like they're franchise kingmakers.
Yeah,
like they do this every time. They pick a property, and it's worth 2 movies minimum. I mean, even that follow up they made to Pacific Rim. That's what I always think about with
right
Legendary. I mean, they still made it, and it's still open to like $50 million, and it was a giant piece of shit. And I love the first movie. I'll put that first one up against a lot of things.
Yeah, no,
for a big dumb action movie.
It's an underrated movie. I like that one.
But they've made, hit after hit after hit. Like they are a money making production company.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good fit because Sony needs it. They need some additional content. They can't all survive on Spider-Man alone.
Hey, Ghostbusters.
Nope, they've ruined that one.
But the streaming, and they don't have their own streaming arm.
Right. So whatever they make, they need to make sure that it plays in theaters and plays for a while.
And I'm sure Legendary will be a part of making stuff for television or streaming as well.
Right. They still have their Enola Holmes, which, that really sucks that went to Netflix. Those are great movies. The production quality is fantastic. It would have played so well in theaters.
But I'm not worried about Sony like making this move just so that way they start like a streaming service or they focus entirely on streaming or television productions.
Right.
It's just going to happen. But I think Sony has a good handling of knowing what goes where. Despite our many frustrations.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job at picking and choosing.
You throw enough against the wall, something's bound to stick.
Yeah.
That's their strategy.